here in the Warning television program. He's an ex-Muslim terrorist, now doing everything within his power to promote the gospel of Jesus Christ. Islam says it's a religion of peace. That's a lie. World leaders are trying to say it's a peaceful religion. That's a lie. Our current president tries to say it's a peaceful religion. That's a lie. The United Nations, the European Union, all are trying to defend Islam. Yet throughout history, the evidence is overwhelming. In fact, all of the leaders throughout history condemned Islam, including the presidents of the United States. Thomas Jefferson declared war on Islam. Ladies and gentlemen, Islam innately is a very dangerous religion. It's really actually a constitution. It's world domination. And by the Quran and the teachings of the Hadiths, Muhammad, you have to take over the country you live in for Allah. That is a commandment. There's no alternative. Walid, welcome back to the program Warning.
Thank you.
Now, yesterday we left off discussing the Mahdi, which we identified as the Antichrist. Now, Islam thinks it's their Messiah, coming back to lead them and conquer the world. The Mahdi is totally against Jesus Christ. He makes war on the saints. He beheads them. He sits in the temple and proclaims himself God. Today we are facing an immediate threat in every nation with Muslims that live in those nations. Here in the United States, we actually have the possibility of a civil war. 3 forms of jihad. One is through propaganda, and that's where we're at in the United States. And our president is doing nothing but helping the enemy get stronger, so we're going to have more and more problems in the future. Again, the attack at 9/11 was no coincidence. It was exactly what it was meant to be, an attack by Islam against the United States. Now, is that correct?
Yes. Islam, when it comes to the United States, through the evidence of 9/11, was looking for a grand finale. If 9/11 was not a grand finale enough, the attempt to destroy the infrastructure and the economy and the commerce of this country in order to cripple this country once and for all. That was the intent. They thought they succeeded. It was not just on the Twin Towers, the Pentagon and other places as well. So if you look at this attack itself, it's to cripple this country. It's a major attack. But the political attack is the one that is of more concern. If you look at 150 universities in our country, you have Islamic student associations. In other words, Islam through petrodollars is buying professors and scholarships and infusing the universities with funds from Saudi Arabia, from rich Muslims. You look at the education in any university in this country, whether it's Oriental studies, social studies, these kind of things, always gives light to Islam as a beautiful, kind religion, and how the misconceptions of the West and how the West needs to stop to fight against Islam, because fighting against Islam constitutes racism. Racism has always been racism, one race against the other, or not employing somebody because of what they believe. How is critiquing a religion racism? If critiquing a religion is racism, then Richard Dawkins is a racist, Christopher Hitchens is a racist, and all who criticize Christianity are racists. What is good for the geese is good for the gander.
We talked about, again, the countries that were involved were coming against Israel in the future. Who the Antichrist leads, what countries. And I want you to name them.
The Bible gives us several names and references. Edom, which Ezekiel tells us encompasses from Timan, Taymiyah, today is in Yemen, to Dedan, today is Saudi Arabia. It tells
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
Supposedly our ally.
Supposedly our ally, that's the head of the snake. In fact, John was taken to the desert to show God showed him a woman riding in a beast. The woman is in a desert. The control mechanism of this beast spiritually comes by the harlot, which comes out of the desert of Arabia. The beast will destroy Saudi Arabia. The beast will destroy the harlot, the Bible tells us. It is very difficult for Europeans to burn Rome, if indeed Rome is the harlot. Yet, every American today have seen Scud missiles sent by Saddam Hussein on Saudi Arabia in the first Gulf War. No Muslims objected. Why? Because Saudi Arabia is a hated country by the Muslims. Why? Because the harlot lives in luxury. The Bible tells us.
And who's the harlot?
Saudi Arabia. Galatians 4 tells us the war between the children of Sarah and the children of Hagar. The children of Sarah, that is Jerusalem, and the children of Hagar, that is Sinai in Arabia. Other countries are mentioned in the Bible. You have Damascus will be destroyed in one day. This is nothing historic. This is something future. You have countries like Meshech and Tubal, which is Mushki and Tubalani, the real names of what these places are, which is in Asia Minor, not Moscow and Tobolsk, as claimed by prophecy buffs. You have countries in the Middle East, all of them. You have Lydia or Ludim, which is Turkey, mentioned literally by name. Ludim is Turkey, no one disagrees. You have Fut, which is Libya, North Africa. You had Kush, which is Sudan and Somalia specifically. Go to Unger Bible Dictionary. The land south of Egypt is Sudan and Somalia, mentioned by name. In fact, the destruction of many of these nations is mentioned in Ezekiel 38. You have Assyria, mentioned in Psalm 83, which is Syria, Iraq, and parts of Turkey as well.
So here we are, the United States, building up Iraq, when in actuality, we are not going to win Iraq over on our side. It's going to be led by Antichrist.
Absolutely correct, because we will pull out of Iraq. Iraq is the domino. Iraq is the head of gold. Iraq is the Babylonian part with Arabia. Iraq is the focus of Antichrist. This is why they are insisting on Americans pulling out of Iraq. This is why the one that stops him is removed out of the way. And that is the United States of America. It is the remaining domino. Iran rules through proxy Syria, rules through proxy Lebanon. Once Americans pull out, Iran, Shiite government, rules Iraq, 65% Shia, rules Syria, Shiite government, rules Lebanon, another Shiite government in Hezbollah. Iran is building a horn that's stemming from Iran all the way to the northern border of Israel. With the usage of Hamas, they build a pincer against Israel.
You know, in reality, it's insanity, and it shows a lack of intelligence. It's basically ignorance and a lack of education for the United States of America to think that they can bring democracy into Muslim countries. If they understood Islam, you'd understand that they don't respect democracy. They respect a strong bully leader.
It would be unfair to say that democracy is not exercised in the Middle East. It is, but only during elections. Once the elections are over, then democracy will cease to exist.
That's what I'm saying. There is no such thing as democracy
totally
in Muslim
with you.
countries.
I'm just being sarcastic about it, that democracy exists in the Middle East only during the election period.
And so for us to think we can put in a genuine democracy is insanity.
Absolutely.
We're wasting billions of dollars right now.
Islamic democracy is like capitalistic communism. There is no such thing. You're either communist or capitalist. There is no communistic capitalism. There is no Islamic democracy.
Because in the Quran, there's no democracy.
Absolutely. The Khalifa rules, which is a theocratic system.
And so the leaders of every Muslim nation, he rules, and to think that the people are going to rule is insanity.
Absolutely. Once the Islamic system comes in, like in Iran, Jimmy Carter did not want to help the Shah of Iran. The Shah died in absentia, and Iran was taken over by the Khomeinis. Had the President of the United States, Jimmy Carter, did something to rescue the Shah and reinstitute the Shah, we would not have the problem that we have today.
The only really thing that we could do in the United States, if we want to really protect our existence as far as from oil, but it's not within our mentality, is instead of trying to democratize Iraq, we need to take over the oil fields, literally.
Our mission as America is to sustain this nation first. Without the sustenance and the protection of this country, we can't help any other country. Our mission is not to fix the Muslim world. Our mission is to protect ourselves and to be a beacon of light to the nations. In order to protect ourselves, we must protect our borders and the infiltration from Muslim countries in order to change the demographics of this country through immigration. Those are the things that we need to do in order to help the Muslim world, to stop the cancer from seeping in. We need to establish legislation that enforces certain laws on countries. You know, how many students come from Syria to America? A lot. How many American students go to Syria from the United States? Virtually none. Okay, Syria, we will give you as many students as much, we will take as many students as much as Americans go to your country. That's how you eliminate the problem. Why do we bring from the Muslim world tremendous amount of students here? And they are creating Muslim student associations.
Definitely.
Yeah, they're being active.
The only hope, though, now we will never do this because it's not within our mentality of an empire. But if we understood the real serious problem, and we are never going to convert them, and they're never going to become democratic, the only alternative in actuality, if we had that understanding, would be to control the oil fields if you want to protect your sovereignty.
That is correct. We need either to get out of the oil, dig our own oil in Alaska, then we don't need their oil. Then Saudi Arabia will become sand dunes, and then we will have no more problems.
But right now, we're just creating a monster when we turn it all over to them.
This is why I tell Americans who want to say, oh, he is a terrorist. Americans are the ones that support terrorism more than any other nation because they use oil. They use the oil from the Arabs. In other words, every time you fill oil in your tank, you fill gas in your tank, you are supporting terrorism.
And right now, by propping up Iraq, if you understood it in prophecy, you're propping up one of the most dangerous countries that will be led by the Antichrist.
The organization of the SCIRI, which is the Council of Iranian Islamic Revolution, is part of the Iraqi government currently.
And for us to build up and protect their oil fields and actually develop them, or other nations developing them, you're just developing in the power again of the Antichrist.
That is correct. Unless, of course, you don't move your presence from Iraq.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
The only choice you would have is
To
occupy it.
That is correct.
Maintain that security as far as the oil.
That's right. But the Muslim world are saying this is the Western greed. We need not to focus on the Muslim world dictating to us what to do. We need to do what is necessary for the protection of humanity first.
But again, I don't believe the leaders right now spiritually have enough strength to do that.
Eventually, God will raise 7 shepherds in Micah 5 and 8 principled men. They will destroy the Antichrist. They will destroy the Assyrian. They will destroy Nimrod, the Bible calls him. What does the Bible call the Antichrist Nimrod? It's very simple. Because Nimrod from Babel, that was the problem. Because they're trying to reverse what God did in Babel. This is why it's Mystery Babylon.
And this is why, again, we're in such a spiritual battle, and the church needs to understand it. We are trying to really unite the church, equip the church, educate the church to the real spiritual battle we're in.
But the falling away must come first, according to 2 Thessalonians.
And that is coming very quickly.
Yes, and the man of sin is revealed. Yet the few ones will be refined. The few will be refined as gold is refined. And refining comes through fire, and that means persecution.
Saudi Arabia, the current leaders in Saudi Arabia, again, hypocrites. How do you think they're going to be removed?
They will not be removed. They will be nuked.
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 Well, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying as far as their total destruction.
Total destruction. Isaiah 34 tells us very clearly.
On the harlot.
Isaiah 34 tells us the destruction of Edom, which is Arabia. It says that the streams will become burning pitch. Pitch is oil. It shall become burning pitch. Its fire will burn forever, from day after day, forever. So it will be nuked. In fact, the Bible tells us in Joel, Joel talks about pillars of smoke. Pillars of smoke. Huge pillars of smoke. That is a nuclear destruction. And I believe the one to administer the nuclear destruction is likely to be Iran.
So the answer, how do you think they're going to be removed, is through nuclear.
Remember, the beast must destroy the harlot. The Bible tells us the beast.
And the beast is
the Islamic Empire, the kingdoms, the seven.
Those nations you just mentioned.
That is correct.
Name them again.
Well, you have Arabia, you have Lebanon, you have Syria, you have the southern parts of Russia, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan. You have Turkey as the center part of this. You have the Middle East. You have Hamas, which is Gaza area. You have Lebanon. You have Sudan. You have Somalia. You have North Africa, which encompasses Libya, Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, Mauritania.
Now, the whore, the harlot that rides the beast, and we're talking about, again, the wealth, the power of Saudi Arabia that's using, so to speak, Islam for its own personal selfishness, so to speak, and yet the beast turns around in hatred and destroys the whore.
He already attempted to destroy the whore when Saddam unleashed the Scud missiles on Arabia. Ever wonder why Muslims never made a peep about the Scud missiles sent to Arabia? Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi at one point in time catapulted Mecca. As a matter of fact, during the Ottoman Empire, you can read the works of Lawrence of Arabia. He talked about it. The Ottoman Turks shelled the Kaaba itself and crushed the Black Stone itself. Currently, 90% of all holy places in Saudi Arabia already have been destroyed. The house of the Prophet of Islam has been destroyed because they feel that this could be idol worship, so they began to destroy their own holy places. So Islam will eventually destroy Saudi Arabia.
Now, for again, the viewers, share what makes Saudi Arabia qualified to be the whore.
First of all, when Jesus was asked, when will you come? And what did he say? He says, do not be deceived. When they tell you he comes from the desert, do not believe it. How come Western Christians don't adhere to that warning? He comes from the desert. Then they tell you he is in the inner court. Oh, he went to the Temple Mount. Remember, all Muslims believe the Mahdi will come and he'll go to the Temple Mount. Who came from the desert? Also Muhammad. Okay, he took me to the desert. There he showed me a woman riding on a beast. Wilderness. Look at the translation. Wilderness, desert, empty expanse, nothingness. That's not Rome. That is a desert. So always been. It's surrounded by many waters. You have the Persian Gulf. You have the Red Sea. You have the Indian Ocean. The destruction of the harlot is well described in Jeremiah 49. I heard the noise of her destruction at the Red Sea. Not in Europe, Red Sea. No one can deny it. And the shipmasters of the sea will weep and wail, for no one buys their merchandise anymore. The merchandise is very well specified. All the imports of Arabia. No one buys the merchants' merchandise. This is not the exports of this country. This is the imports of this nation.
And when it talks about, again, in Revelation, about the 7 hills, if people really understood Bible terminology, we're talking about 7 kingdoms or nations.
That is correct. A mountain in the Bible is a kingdom, because if you look at Daniel 2, I saw the stone that was cut without image, that was Jesus, grew to become a great mountain. He establishes the kingdom of Christ. If you have faith of a mustard seed, you can move the mountain. You can change kingdoms. Christ doesn't say things just like, okay, mountain means your troubles. Westerners tend to personalize too much. So mountain, from the biblical perspective, is a kingdom. In fact, you can see Ahmadinejad. He says Islam will rule all the mountains, well, the mountain tops. He will rule all the nations. Remember in Revelation 17, there are 7 mountains, there are also 7 kings. Kings don't rule mountains. Kings rule kingdoms, empires.
And Saudi Arabia, again, exports the most fanatical form of terrorism, if we want to say that.
And they import slavery.
Import slavery, that's exactly right.
It's in the Bible.
But wannabeism, they export terrorism, they export, again, jihad, and they're doing it through their money.
That is correct. The money and the oil. It uses the oil. You see, the slime of humanity produces the slime.
Now, they're trying to control the Muslim nations, the beast, but
Through
the
the slime.
beast hates them.
That is correct. And if anybody got my point about the slime of humanity and the slime, they must think about this. Remember, go back to Babel. They said, let us build a name for ourselves. They took bricks and slime, pitch, petrol. Very literal. They took the petrol, slimy, sticky petroleum, and they took the bricks and they built a zuggurat to build a name for themselves to reach up to God. Today, the biggest plan of building the tallest zuggurats, buildings in the world, exists in the Arab world, in Dubai. Saudi Arabia is planning to build the tallest building in the world, 1 mile long, and guess what they're calling it? Babel.
I've seen it.
Tower of Babel.
I've seen already the construction.
Yeah. In Saudi Arabia?
Yes. No,
Dubai.
Dubai.
Yes. But Saudi Arabia is jealous. They want to build the tallest one.
Exactly.
And if you look at it, it's a very zuggurat-like construction.
Yeah, right now Dubai, but it will be Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Yeah, I was actually there.
Time is
Now,
coming soon.
Time is coming so soon. And the church needs to wake up, because the church doesn't understand these things.
But waking up doesn't come except through persecution.
Unfortunately.
So we need to pray for persecution.
It is coming.
Look, the solution is to pray for the opposite of what we think we need to pray for.
What the Lord, I know, would want is if the church could wake up without being chastised. That would be every father's heart. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen.
That's the American way of thinking.
Yes. And you see, any father doesn't want to persecute or chastise his child, but unfortunately, you have to do that. And unfortunately, that's the only way it's going to happen in the United States.
Yes.
Again, America doesn't want to recognize what is so clearly taught in Scripture, and so they create this escape mentality of pre-tribulation rapture.
Yes.
They don't want to actually see what we must go through. Consequently, I believe it's a very dangerous doctrine, because they get out of the battle and they just, so to speak, party.
Yeah.
We need to get back in the battle and do what we can to represent Jesus Christ.
The Middle East, we already live in a tribulation. In the West, they always fight over pre, post, or mid. If you're not a pre-tribulation, there's some sort of a rejection, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's not popular.
It's not a popular thing. You have to be the popular thing, which is a pre-trib rapture.
Nobody wants to face persecution.
Nobody wants to face
So
persecution.
let's twist the Scriptures and make a lie out of them.
Yeah, to me, it's all going to unfold when it unfolds. Look, I hope it's a pre-trib rapture.
I hope so too.
But I am prepared for a post-tribulation rapture. If I am prepared for a post-tribulation rapture, and I pray for a pre-trib rapture, I am okay.
Now, the reality is, there should be no problem within the church to study the Scriptures the way they are written, and to be able to actually debate. There should be nobody getting upset whether you hold post-trib, mid-trib, pre-trib, or whatever you hold.
I totally agree.
Because it's not conclusive.
Yeah.
So why get angry over it?
They get angry over it because it stirs the comfort zone. Westerners love to live in comfort zone. Look at the churches, super duper church. Everywhere is super duper church. You got Osteen, you know, don't let anybody tell you that you feel bad, positive, negative. Positive, negative, positive, negative. Don't feel negative, you should feel positive. Can anybody show me in the Bible where's the word positive and where's the word negative? It virtually doesn't exist all sermons and all theology on words that are so empty and they don't exist in the Bible. The Bible is not about psychology. The Bible is your will be done. Not my will, but your will be done. So, what can we do? We only can infect others with the truth. And the only way we can infect others with the truth is by mingling with the world that we live in. It's a big headache. Me and you are having salt and pepper already. Tomorrow we will lose our hair and we'll get only older. But at least we can say we ran the marathon.
Do you think you can name the country that the Antichrist comes out of?
I believe it could be Turkey, because that was where the Ottoman Empire was wounded.
Tomorrow, we're going to discuss that. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in a battle today. Tune in tomorrow, and we're going to see what comes out of Turkey.
Call and order Walid Shoebat's book, God's War on Terror, for a donation of $35 or more, plus shipping and handling. You can order this 6-DVD interview series with Walid Shoebat for a donation of $50 or more, plus shipping and handling. If you want both Walid's book and the 6-DVD interview series, send your donation of $85 or more, plus shipping and handling. Call and order Dr. Hansen's informative 6-DVD series, Jesus versus Muhammad, the Bible versus the Quran, for a donation of $50 or more, plus shipping and handling. For a donation of $135 or more, plus shipping and handling, you can receive all of these: Dr. Hansen's 6-DVD series, Jesus versus Muhammad, the Bible versus the Quran, plus the 6-DVD series, Ex-Muslim Terrorist Walid Shoebat, plus Walid Shoebat's book, God's War on Terror.
Islam in America is not here to be a religion, but Islam in America is here to be the dominating religion. In essence, they want to take over the whole world. 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 For the cause of Allah. For the cause of Allah. For the cause of Allah.
It is your donations and support that keep us on this television station. Telephone 360-629-5248 today.